The very important team time trial in the Vuelta, a protest mid-race, UAE Team Emirates doing pacing very different to the Ineos Grenadiers. Which one would pay off? We are in Catalonia. We've had a long transfer yesterday, and they're even changing countries tomorrow. So 4 different countries in the first 6 stages, but this is a flat TT. 24Ks, technical in the middle, and that's where Lotto actually did a very good time. They've got track guys, De Bois, Viviani, and in the technical fast section, you can go pretty fast. And Lidl-Trek, they got some horses. They've got Pedersen, Darnola, the Dutch TT champion, as well as Søren Kragh Andersen. They took, from my eye test, more risks in the corners in the middle phase. They went almost the fastest in that section. They're up at T1, but then through the corners, you can see that it's tricky if you're coming off and trying to get back on through this middle phase. Darnola's he's got to adjust so he gets straight back on the wheel without chopping himself. And if you get that wrong, even if you brake too much, you can be off the back. And through the intermediates, they were through. But here you see Verona slightly gets the calculation wrong. Baggioli slides underneath him, and he just has to feather the brakes, just touch them a bit, comes off his line, and has a very, very soft crash. And even if he'd held it up, he probably wouldn't have got back on. And we don't do the Paris-Nice-Woke TT rules here. It's the fourth rider sets the time. And so Pedersen was looking at Darnola, and Darnola was like, I'm the fourth guy, I can't pull through. But obviously a very, very good time from Lidl-Trek. They go into the hot seat for quite a while. Q365, I would say one of the overperformers today based on my expectations. To finish only 12 seconds behind Lidl-Trek or so with 56 kph average for Pidcock. I mean, if it was a flat TT against Ayuso of 24K's individual time trial, he'd be losing more than 13 seconds. So Q365 should be very happy with that performance. We see the big guns warming up, though. Ayuso, Almeida, David Gaudu, Jonas Vingegaard. Can Gaudu defend the red jersey? Probably not. Movistar, again, they don't really have a GC leader here because Enrique Mas couldn't start, but they still set a good time. They also took maybe more risks in the corners or more aggressive pacing in the middle phase, and they finish with 4 riders. They've about 8 seconds behind Lidl-Trek, so actually quite small gaps between a lot of the teams. I mean, less than 10 seconds. Decathlon AG2R, another team where they're happy there's a TTT because you got the French natty champ, Bruno Armirel. He can tow around Felix Gall. If it was an individual time trial, you better believe Felix Gall wouldn't be finishing this close. So they do a very, very good performance as well. Another team on 8 seconds to Lidl-Trek. So a lot of teams, 56.5 Ks an hour average. And the faster it gets, it must be harder to go even faster. You need the huge horses. Ineos have a few of them. Filippo Ganna, Kwiatkowski, Brandon Rivera, Ben Turner. They're missing someone like Josh Tarling. But Ganna, I mean, he could probably do this 56K an hour average flat himself. But what you see here is it's tricky with mixed abilities. And also I think Sheffield's a bit sick. The riders peel off very fast. Bernal on, off. Sheffield then pulls off. And then it's Turner again through on the inside on the right-hand side. And so Ineos was super fast to T1. Maybe too fast because after that, where they were 10 seconds up, they start to lose riders quickly. Rivera, then Sheffield, who's normally you'd think he'd go to the finish as one of their best TT riders. And they're left with 4 riders for 6Ks to go. And if one rider misses a corner, has a mechanical, has an issue, it's the 4th rider that sets the time. So they lose a lot of time from T2 to the finish or T1 to the finish. And they finish 7 seconds behind Lidl-Trek, who are breathing a sigh of relief. Israel Premier Tech, though, they have another GC rider who's not so good on the flat, Matthew Riccitello. But you see, when the coverage starts 3 minutes in, they're in a weird formation where there's 2 riders left, 2 riders right on the back. That's not normally how you do a TTT. And then we see a replay. There was a protest on the road. Now, Israel Premier Tech already have, I think, extra police moto escorts. You see, most teams didn't have 4 in front. And the first moto goes through, takes the initial big flag or banner away, and then the other motos try to create a path in the middle of the road and split. But then a couple of the IPT riders go right. If they shot the gap, maybe they would have snuck through. Then the other protesters who the initial moto had pushed away, they break free, get right, and then there's 4 riders that have to wait. I'm not sure if Israel Premier Tech, if they were credited with extra time or given time back. I don't know how you would do that or what the rules would say about that, but they finish on 45 seconds in the end. Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, a good TTT team, although again, they don't have the 80 kilo massive monster trucks, but they do have a lot of good TTT riders like Fisher Black. But you see here, Sobrero thinks whoever's on the front is going to go left. he thinks he's breaking off left and he's going to overlap him right and come through for his pull. And then that rider goes right. Sobrero gets chopped. His head hits the ground at, whatever speed they're doing. And he's also probably one of their guys who would have been their best in the TTT. He's a really good rider, really good all-round rouleur, Mateo Sobrero. That was a pretty scary crash. He gets up and finishes, though, only 3 minutes down, so hopefully he's okay. And Rebel Warhound's got a finish with 6, just 3 seconds behind Lidl-Trek. UAE Team Emirates, they weren't the favourites. A year ago, they were the favourite for every TT. Individual team time trial, they dominated the flat TTs, and they got an extra rider compared to Visma Lease bike, so they're 1 second down, but they're able to peel Novak off here, and they've been able to use him for like a dead pull and save the other riders. They're 5 seconds down on Trek at T2, but they got 7 guys, and then they just start, they use up Vine, then Groschartner, then the tracky Ivo Oliveira, who's great in this sort of effort in a team time trial. Juan Ayuso, I mean, he beat Filippo Ganna in the flat GT in Tirreno Adriatico last year, but they're having to check multiple times. Almeida first, then Bjerg and Ayuso. Where is Soler? Because as I said, the 4th rider sets the time. Doesn't matter, even if he was off the back. They smashed the Lidl-Trek time at 9 seconds ahead at nearly 57 kilometers an hour average. Trek have to get out of the hot seat. Team Visma Lease bike, maybe then the only team, well, they were the only team left on course that could theoretically beat that UAE time, but they're down a rider from the start. So they're starting with 7, others starting with 8. They got Jorgensen, but they don't have the big units either, because we've got a lot of climbing in this world. So they don't have a Feeney or Van Aert. They're 3 seconds down at T1, so about where UAE and Lidl-Trek were. In fact, ahead of Lidl-Trek, but through T2, they were 10th. They were, I think, the 19th team from T1 to T2 in the slower section, and then they were the fastest team from T2 to T1. So what looked like a good TT, then looked like a bad TT, and then it became a good TT again. They finished with 5, Vingegaard and Jorgensen powering to the line, 7 or 8 seconds behind UAE Team Emirates. So not enough for the victory, but Vingegaard is able to take the red jersey if Groupama FDJ aren't within a second of that time. And he's got Stefan Kung in front of him, one of the best time trial riders in the world, but it's not enough. They lose 20 plus seconds to UAE. So UAE win the stage, back on top, 8 seconds ahead of Visma Lease bike, Trek on 9 seconds, then Red Bull 12, Ineos 16, Movistar 17, Decathlon 17. Actually, pretty small gaps in the end amongst the top 10. Vingegaard takes the red jersey back from Gaudu. He's 8 seconds ahead of the UAE trio of Ayuso, Almeida, Soler, then Ciccone, Gaudu, Jorgensen on 9 and 16 seconds, and Hindley, Pellizzari, and Bernal on 22 seconds. So we go into the first, I would say, proper mountain stage tomorrow with very small GC gaps. Hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you the recap then. Ciao, ciao.